Big Ukraine divide over Zelensky's Donbas referendum plan. Former Ukrainian PM roars says Zelensky never consulted people. Kremlin shoots down Zelensky's call amid continued aerial attacks. Former Ukrainian Prime Minister Nikolay Azarov has hit out at Volodymyr Zelensky's proposal to hold a referendum in Donbas over accession to Moscow. According to the Russian TASS agency, Azarov claimed that Zelensky was trying to maneuver, find some wording. What can I say? Zelensky is trying to maneuver, find some wording, but it's all non-negotiable. I repeat, he has never consulted the people of Ukraine, and now they're planning either elections or a referendum. Let them clarify then. Zelensky's statement is completely unclear. The Constitution clearly stipulates how constitutional issues are resolved. Even in such matters, Zelensky makes no distinction between a referendum and an election, Azarov said. Azarov's remark comes day after Kremlin rejected Zelensky's referendum call, adding that Donbas was a sovereign Russian territory and Moscow would sooner or later establish control over the region.
It is not entirely ruled out that he will perceive this simply as a convenient opportunity to achieve a temporary, albeit brief, ceasefire, and that, in essence, is the full extent of it.
Zelensky, who has been accused of using war as an excuse to cling to power, said he was ready for elections in Ukraine.
We are ready to work with President Trump in any format. And if President Trump is speaking more about elections in Ukraine, I want to say this very openly. We can try to hold elections. Ukraine is not hiding from democracy, but to make elections possible, there must be a security component, and America can help with this the most. If there is a need for elections now, there must be a ceasefire at least during election process and during voting, and this is something that must be discussed. And honestly, we think here in Ukraine that America should speak to the Russian side about this.
Donald Trump, who has been aggressively pushing for a ceasefire to end the 4-year-long war, declined to provide details on calls for creating a free economic zone in the eastern Donbas.
Can you tell us how this free economic zone would work in the Donbas in land that the Russians took by force?
Well, I don't want to do that now. It's a very complex situation, but it would work, and a lot of people want to see it work. And all I want to do is I want to stop the death of 25,000 people a month. I thought that we were very close with Russia to having a deal. I thought we were very close with Ukraine to having a deal. In fact, other than President Zelensky, his people loved the concept of the deal. You know, we threw something out.
This is the 4-part deal.
Well, there's 4 or 5 different parts. It's, a little bit complicated because you're cutting up land in a certain way. It's not the easiest thing. It's sort of like a complex real estate deal times 1,000, right? But it's a deal that would have stopped the killing of thousands of lives every month. Thousands and thousands of lives, mostly soldiers, but as you know there's some bombs being dropped.
Is this sort of a career-link ceasefire that we don't resolve?
Well, there's a meeting on Saturday. We'll see whether or not we attend the meeting. We said we'll attend the meeting if we think there's a good chance of they want me to attend. They want us to attend. And we'll be attending the meeting on Saturday in Europe if we think there's a good chance. And we don't want to waste a lot of time. We think it's negative. We want it to get settled. We want to save a lot of lives.
Earlier this month, Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff and son-in-law Jared Kushner visited Moscow for 5-hour talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Later, Witkoff and Kushner held several meetings with senior Ukrainian officials in Florida in an attempt to iron out differences over Trump's peace proposal that has been heavily criticized for favoring Moscow. According to Trump's peace plan, Crimea, Luhansk, and Donetsk will be recognized as de facto Russian territories, including by United States. Kherson and Zaporizhia will be frozen along the line of the contact. Ukraine forces will withdraw from the part of Donetsk Oblast that they currently control, and this zone will be treated as a neutral demilitarized buffer zone, internationally recognized as territory belonging to Russia. According to Trump's peace plan, Ukraine's armed forces will be limited to 600,000 personnel. Kiev should enshrine in its constitution that it will not join NATO, and the military bloc will not admit the war-torn country. Zelensky has said he is ready to halt the fighting along the existing front line, but would not officially cede territory currently under Russian control. Last week, Zelensky met French President Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, and British Premier Keir Starmer in London.
I think we all support Ukraine, and we all support peace and peace negotiations to have a sustainable, a robust peace. And I think we have a lot of cards in our hands. The financing and the furniture of equipment and training belongs to Ukraine. The fact that Ukraine is resisting in this war, and the fact that the Russian economy is starting to suffer, especially after our latest sanctions and the US sanctions. And now I think the main issue is a convergence between our common positions, Europeans and Ukrainians, and the US to finalize these peace negotiations and re-engage a new phase in the best possible conditions for Ukraine, for the Europeans, and for our collective security.
That we stand with Ukraine, and if there's to be a ceasefire, it needs to be a just and lasting ceasefire. And that's why it's so important that we repeatedly set out the principle that matters about Ukraine are Ukraine. And we stand here to support you in the conflict and support you in the negotiations and make sure that this is a just and lasting settlement if we can get that far. But you're very welcome. I look forward to our discussion.
The peace efforts comes at a time when Russia continues its aerial bombardment of Ukraine. Zelensky said Russian strikes in Ukraine's Odessa damaged a civilian vessel in Chornomorsk port. This once again shows that Russia not only fails to take seriously the current opportunity for diplomacy, but continues to wage the war with the aim of destroying normal life in Ukraine.